Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast,
a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast. Mariano Alvarez here with Brent LaBrada and a very special guest we'll be announcing in a second. But first, I do want to remind you guys that you can find us on all major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all by searching Dog Trainers Podcast. And before we get into that, I want to make sure that we show some love to people that have been reaching out to us online. So hello and big thank you to Paws Up Dog Training, Sarah Burke, Chloe Finney, and Ali Tesla. How are you guys? We love you guys. And with that, over to you, man.
What is up, everybody? Good morning. This is every now and then we get to do an interview with someone who's on the other side of the country, which means we have to wake up really early.
I know.
And I love it. So today, guys, our special guest is Kaitlin Kane Stankowski from Kane9dogtraining. You guys can go ahead and follow her at Kane, Kane, the number 9, and the word dog training. You can also check out her website, www.Kane9dogtraining.com. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot of cool things that are coming out or that have already come out, including several of her ebooks on puppies and also a graduate handbook that we're going to get into a little bit more detail as well. So with no further ado, please welcome Kaitlin Kane Stankowski. How do you like to be called? Do you want me to say all the names? How do you like that?
Most people just call me Kate. So Kate is perfect. Yep, Kate from Kane9
Okay.
is perfect.
Kate from Kane9.
Yeah, Stankowski is a little bit of a tongue twister, so we can
leave
that.
It is. You're like, we'll keep that on the license.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So from my understanding, your maiden name was Kane, correct?
Yep.
Correct. Okay, so I mean, Kate Kane, what a sweet business name.
Oh, I know. I swear my parents named me so if I was famous one day, I'd sound cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's working.
Yeah,
Cool.
Kate Kane sounds like a 1980s guitarist, like Eddie Van Halen. Yeah,
or like a rock star.
Just got to poof your hair out.
Yeah, exactly.
Cyndi Lauper style. Just
Yeah. Shannon.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kate. This was really a fun process coming. I think we reached out to you probably 2 months ago, and just schedules and life and everything gets crazy. So I really appreciate you joining us. Now, as our audience knows, the biggest thing that we like to do here is we like to educate. We like to inspire people. We like to motivate people to cross-pollinate knowledge with each other here because, as you know, as a dog trainer coming up in the game, the knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have, the more you can help dog owners, the more dogs you can help, et cetera, et cetera. And, we really want to work on breaking down these walls of, this side versus that side and these people versus those people. And we just we really want to focus on just sharing and making the industry better for dogs. So, obviously going through Instagram, there's no way I can go on the internet, social media and not run into your stuff because it's hilarious. It's very well put together.
Thank you.
You've developed an amazing following over the last couple of years. And honestly, you can see the charm behind the social media, and getting to talk to you before our episode, you start to see that the charm is actually there.
Thank you.
It's not something fabricated. So I guess let's go ahead and start this episode similar to how we start a lot of our special guest episodes. We want to get to know who Kate was before dog training, and maybe just talk about that journey going into dog training. So we can go back as far as you'd like, because someone somewhere will relate to your story.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're super welcome.
So it feels like many years ago, but it's not that long ago. Call it 6 or 7 years at this point. But I've always been really in love with dogs. I'm the dog lover. I love dogs. And then things change. I still love dogs, but I think I respect and appreciate them more than it being like I love dogs.
Okay.
So back in high school, I often volunteered at our local humane society and just would go and walk the dogs. And typically I would walk the ones that no one else wanted to walk. Unfortunately, a lot of the times that was bully breeds or the giant shepherds and stuff that just don't seem as appealing in their run. So I ended up really finding a love for the bully breeds. So then, of course, I'm like, well, one day I have to own a pit bull. Like, that's what I need to do. I'm obsessed with them. They're so cute. And I want to be the pit bull owner. Like, that's the side that I was at, like, big time. Like, I'm going to, change the way people think about pit bulls. I'm going to be that person. So fast forward a little bit, I went to college, went for business and marketing. So I think that's where a lot of I should say not a lot. I definitely have some of the value from college, from the business side, from now owning my own business.
Nice.
But I really followed the path that you follow. You go to school, you graduate, and you go get a job. So I ended up getting a job. If anyone doesn't know, I live in Wisconsin, so it's very I worked for a cheese company where it's like,
what?
how much more Wisconsin can that get?
Yeah, of course, right.
Yeah. So I was in sales and marketing for a cheese company. And during that time, I adopted a dog.
A pit bull?
So, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I really thought I knew everything. I'm like, okay, I've got his, crate set up. I'm going to make sure I'm doing everything right. But then you just, don't know until you know. So there's definitely way too much babying. Like, it was me and him on our own at that time. My husband now he was still finishing school. So it's I was like babying this adorable pit bull puppy, but still training him. He was about 5 months old when we adopted him. And about a month or two later, I just started really noticing whoa, what the heck did I get myself into? Just nastiness on the leash, at such a young age. And I'm like, this is just not normal. I had no idea what leash reactivity was. I just thought, I'm like, I have the most aggressive dog in the world. What the heck am I going to do?
You felt alone.
So yeah, you feel super alone, because then you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm embarrassed because I, talked up this, I'm going to, have this super well-behaved dog.
Yeah.
But then when you don't realize anything about genetics and everything else that goes along with it, you just feel like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And I just felt like, do I keep this dog? Yes, of course I have to, is kind of the state of mind I was at the time.
Roughly when was this? Time-wise?
So this was 2015.
Okay.
When we adopted him. And so I first started okay, well, where I adopted him, you get free classes to go to one of the big box stores, and they'll help you with your reactive dog.
Oh, really?
And I was I walk in and he's doing all the trick stuff easily,
Right.
the touching of the hand, and
Right.
he's a brilliant dog. There was no shortage of that. But literally, even walking around the store, they're just letting me know, hey, every time he's lunging at a person or another dog, give him a treat. And I'm thinking, for me, what kind of stepped in is common sense.
Right.
I was just no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Where unfortunately, a lot of people can't they just, well, this is what I'm being told to do, so this is what I should do. Where I was no, this isn't going to work for me. I got to go.
Right.
I'm not, I kind of, and again, it's humanizing the situation, but I kind of looked at it as, if my parents started rewarding me for throwing a tantrum in the grocery store, I'm going to know it's going to work for me every single time. So I was that just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
So that was definitely overwhelming, because you're all right, well, that's not helpful. And I still have the same challenges. And at this time I was actually really against prong collars. I didn't really even, I was very much oh no, I'm not going to put that on my dog, not mine. Are you kidding me? I didn't know really anything about e-collars, except for I thought they were all kind of electric fences. So just super naive, and just didn't know at that time of everything. And then I ended up meeting a balance trainer who was how do you feel about, introducing a prong collar? And at this point I was I'll try it. What could it hurt? And not that the tool necessarily change things for us, because it's still an everyday, you have to stay on top of his behaviors every day. But it was the starting of the missing link of, okay, now I can communicate.
Right.
So long story short, I fell in love with the process of training him, and friends and family members and even coworkers were hey, would you be able to help us with our dog? You seem to love
That's
it.
cool.
I'm sure, I could try to help.
you're like, well, I don't know, but I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which probably some people are probably going to listen to that and be like, oh my gosh, like another owner trainer. But I'm like, yeah, totally. But yeah, so ever since then, I, slowly and surely started doing like shadow programs, and that's where I found like the most value in like my continued growth is like, I am a hands-on learner. So no matter like courses and stuff, videos online, obviously they're all helpful and they all give you a really nice like platform to start building, the changes in a relationship that you need to implement at home. But shadow programs and seminars and stuff like that was definitely where I felt took me to the next level, because then I actually got to actively hands-on and be critiqued in a way that it's like, hey, you're doing something like this, let's try this. And that's where I kind of just started falling in love with the process of not just training dogs, but helping people and seeing them go from like, even if it was just a matter of helping people have their dog not pull. Like, I think no matter where a trainer is in their journey, they can bring value somehow to an owner.
Right. Okay.
And that's where I was like, that's what I was really loving, is like helping people that I felt like I was there, even at that time, only a couple months ago. And that's really how like everything started to kind of trickle and turn into now what I'm doing today.
Yeah, it's very validating, because I remember being that dog trainer, just being like, shit, I just want to run across the street and help that lady getting dragged down the street. And I just learned leash walking, you know what I mean?